Now that we've looked at introduction material, we'll start to get into more advanced topics relative to the core of the Navier-Stokes equations. First, we'll look at some basics. And this theory is generally based on the viewpoint that the fluid is in a continuum, and that's our continuum hypothesis. If it wasn't, if the Knudsen number was not correct, then we wouldn't be able to make this assumption in practice, and we'd have to use a different set of equations, maybe like Boltzmann equations for a rarefied flow. But generally in this class, like the name implies, we're looking at the Navier-Stokes equations and focusing on continuum, or viewing a fluid as a continuum that deforms continuously in space. Not microscopic, but macroscopic behaviors of particular fluids could be seen as being continuous. That is, the macroscopic properties like density, pressure, temperature, and velocity are well defined at particular points and seem to vary continuously from one particular point in the flow field to another. We will look at the laws of these particular fluids or fluid mechanics in terms of fluid parcels. And the word fluid parcels comes from D'Alembert and Leonhard Euler, who described fluid in these little parcels. We might call them like little differential volumes today, but I often say fluid parcel in my lectures because I think it's traditional and a good way to look at it, I suppose. So the very small volumes or fluid parcels contain many, many, many molecules, and their sizes are extremely small relative to the fluid parcel. And their integration will give us these macroscopic properties and scales. So the physical properties we might measure in the lab or talk about through this class are really a particular type of average associated with this continuous assumption, and they might vary with different quantities. For example, temperature or static temperature, thermodynamic temperature, we might write as theta, and integration over the fluid parcel or small differential volume, delta V, over 1 over delta V. So we take the property, we add it all up in a particular fluid parcel, and then we divide by the particular volume. This way, of course, we get the correct units. This would be like Kelvin, and this is Kelvin. And that checks out. There's generally two types of representations of fluids in terms of reference frames, and these are taught to undergraduate students in Fluids 1. One is a particular Eulerian reference frame, which is fixed to the fluid, and the other is Lagrangian frame, where the reference frame is the initial state of the fluid, and the quantities are attached to that particular parcel, fluid parcel, as they move. Let x sub O at t is a particular position of a parcel at time little t, who at time 0 was x naught. So x will be a position dependent on time t from initial position x naught. So our fluid parcel is here, initial position x naught, maybe t naught, and it goes to some other location at another x and time t. Now there'll be some Q property attached to that particular fluid parcel as it moves through space, and we might view that as, say, like temperature or density or velocity or whatever, and we want to predict those, and we might describe that fluid as having quantity Q at a particular time t, which might change in time and space. So Q is a function of space x and time t. Now Q sub x naught at time t is the value of Q, whatever it is, value or property of the fluid, at time particular t in the fluid parcel, according to our earlier definition. And it might have a particular velocity. So now if we take the time derivative, d dt, of the particular fluid parcel at position x naught and time t, we can define our velocity field as u. So u is our velocity field, usually in 3 dimensions, u, v, and w, the x, y, and z component of u. Anyway, it's at time t and position x naught. So the velocity field is just the derivative of x naught. Now we have a link, if you will, between the variations of q x naught at time t and those of, say, q at time t and position x from the chain rule of differentiation. We'll take q of x naught t and take the time derivative, and we can write it as, with the chain rule of differentiation, as the partial derivative of q at position x at time t. So this partial t represents the partial derivative with respect to t. At initial position, x equals x naught t, plus the summation of I equals 1 to 3. I is 1 is x, 2 is y, I equals 3 is z, of the partial derivatives, that's partial I, of q of xt at position x space x and time t, times that velocity normal derivative of x naught. Now we'll let d dt of qx naught be the so-called material or total derivative of q, and we'll designate that with capital D's, as is customary in fluid mechanics. We'll write capital D dt of q is equal to the partial derivative of qxt, that remains the same, and we're going to take that time derivative d dt of x naught and replace it with ui from 1 to 3 times the partial derivative of q. So that'd be u1 partial q partial x1 plus u2 partial q partial x2 plus u3 partial q partial x3. And this is, of course, the definition of the material derivative, which is critical for forming the Navier-Stokes equations.